Hey friends, look what I found. Usnea. If you're not familiar with what this is, it's a lichen, and you can make respiratory support tinctures out of it, which is great. I like to collect it this time of year. I talk a lot about this in my membership community, how to do this kind of stuff. I teach over there. I'll drop a link to that below in the description. I keep it super affordable because it's not like a gatekeeping thing where I want to charge people a lot of money. It's more a safe space to come together, to have difficult conversations, to learn things that are being wiped off of this wonderful little internet space where we hang out. It used to be a great resource for natural options, and it's not anymore. Now it's a very generic AI generated source. And the good stuff from real people gets buried. On today's video, we're going to walk through a solar battery system. But before we do that, I want to address a couple of things that have come up because everything's always changing. And when I filmed this video, everything was kind of calm and things have just ramped back up again. So I want to share some things that are happening. And then, the importance of getting your systems in order and getting your house in order. There's so much going on in the world. So I want to just talk about that for a moment as well. First off, it's cold, and there's rumor that a young child lost its life due to hypothermia out here. I have not been able to verify that, so I haven't shared that information. But I do know, as of just a couple of days ago, there's an area where there hasn't been a lot of help, and so Wayne from the shop where I do the sheds, he went to pick up some sheds and he learned about how locals were cutting in, trying to fix the roads still, and saw a light way up in the mountain, and up there found people who were basically living off of baby food. I haven't connected with Wayne to get the official story. He just kind of told me over the phone, and our phones were breaking up, but it sounds like there was a person who was a child, but a grown child who may have had some disabilities and things, and they were just forgotten about up there, and they didn't have the means and the resources to navigate through a disaster zone when the roads were closed to get cared for, or whoever was bringing them supplies might not have been able to get up there. I'm not sure of the details, but I do know that, somebody was up there 50 days into this, living off of baby food, basically starving. And so I want to keep that part of the story alive because that is the reality here. We're talking about hundreds of little towns all over, and then you've got all these little hollers and things, and so it's easy for people to fall through the cracks. And work is not getting done here. That's the other thing I want to address. I know there was some approval of funds through our current president just recently. When I read the list, it was like billions, 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 all going to all this stuff. And then the people were at the very bottom of that list. Infrastructure was pretty low too. It was like a bunch of things. Like, I didn't see all the billions at the top that were getting the funds aren't things I even see a need for. We need infrastructure fixed, roads, and people to be helped with housing to stay safe. Like, those should be at the top if we're gonna, have any funding or any help going on. Early on, like the small businesses, early on, initially, it was like this runaround. And so the FEMA money's been the same. So it's like, go apply, and then you get denied. And then you learn how to get undenied by going to a clinic. I shared this in a past video. And you do all this stuff. This was like in the day 45, people were doing this, like going to a clinic to learn how to be undenied from FEMA to get $750. It's absolutely insane. So that was happening. But the other thing was, originally small businesses were telling people to go to FEMA. FEMA was sending them back, and they were doing this runaround. And come to find out, eventually the small business loan, I don't know if it's small business loans, whatever that department is, that is basically like the FEMA for small businesses. They eventually just said, okay, fill out the paperwork, but we don't have any funds. So we'll just help you when we get the funds. So they finally like just fessed up and we're taking people's applications, but saying, well, we don't have any money to help you, but we'll take your paperwork anyway. And so they stopped putting them through the ringer of like, well, no, go here and go do this and go do that. So, I mean, at least that was kind. At least we knew like what was going on. Like they didn't have any money to help anybody. That saves people a lot of time and a lot of headache instead of running people that are already victims like through the ringer on this thing. So those are some things going on. A company donated a solar battery, and I'm going to go through that today and just share my thoughts. We're trying to get our homes in order. I had Billy from Pasture Farms over this weekend, and we filmed a YouTube on how to inoculate logs for mushrooms for long-term food security. I'll be posting that soon. But we were just discussing like this really showed us where we had some things we needed to work on in the way of preparedness. And so a lot of us, we do this as moms when we camp. We'll go camping with our kids. And then we wake up the next morning while we're having coffee. We're like making notes on our phone of the things that we didn't use and the things we needed to be more successful at backpacking or camping or whatever it is. And so a lot of us were doing that post Hurricane Helene, like making a list. What are we missing in our preparedness? And for me, it was backup solar to run my towers. So I'm going to share just a backup battery pack that was sent to me that is greatly helpful and can be recharged via solar. I will say, because I have so many towers, I want a more long-term setup, but it is definitely something I plan to keep 2, maybe even 3 of these around, because in the world of preparedness, 1 is none, 2 is 1 around, because super, super helpful. It would have been so beneficial to have this solar battery pack to charge the towers and keep things going, because fresh food, wellness, staying out of the stores, like staying out of what's going on is key too. Like that is one of the lessons I would say is the greatest. Find a way to just not be in the middle of everything if there's a crisis situation going on, because now we're learning about a lot of things that are coming out, and the more exposure you have, the more dangerous the situation becomes. So if you can ever, so the best practice, I think, in preparedness is to get your home in order and be prepared to just lock the door and hang tight for a little bit, see what's going on. That was a lesson I learned in 2020. I used to think, like, when I would see people out and about, like if this was a real medical emergency, like crisis, like the movie, what is that movie? Contagion or something like that. People are out like shopping at the grocery store and needing to get food essentials from Walmart, right? You can go to Walmart and do anything you want, but you can't go to the mom and pop health food store down the street. Like how dangerous of a situation you're actually putting yourself in if it had been a real contagion that was super deadly, right? Like, let's not put ourselves in a situation where we need to risk that. We can just shut the door and wait it out. And that's what we did. When we initially came across this, we were in Breckenridge skiing. We were living in our camper at the time. We had already purchased this house, but we were still traveling and living in our camper. And when I heard and got word in December, we actually lost a family member in November for something that sounded very similar to what came out in 2020. I was following things very, very early on because I don't watch the mainstream news. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute as well. And so I started getting word very, very early. And when we were up there, I was like, we are in the hub of people coming in from all over the country into the Breckenridge area, and we need to leave. And so we did. And 2 weeks later, they had the first case come in. It was from a young man from Italy. And that's what started it there. Now, we went home, shut the doors, and stayed out of the way for a while until we were able to understand what was really going on with that situation and feel comfortable being exposed. We just laid low. Like that's, I think, one of the best things you can do in the preparedness world is just take a moment to stay out of the fray and evaluate and really get to the bottom of what's going on. then you can go out and do the things you got to do. But we can't do that if we don't have supplies, battery packs, food stores. I have buckets right here for my long-term food storage stuff. I'll be making a video for you guys, but have the things you need: fresh food, homemade natural remedies. And so my last point before we dive into this video is with the news. Like, one thing I've noticed when I'm watching, where I like to get my information and kind of updates, is we all discuss how we don't trust mainstream media, but then when it comes to knowing what's going on in the world as far as these wars and rumors of wars, right? We basically get that information from mainstream sources because we don't have boots on the ground. Most of us, we don't know people like living in Ukraine or living in Russia or living in these other countries and living in these other places. We don't have access to those boots on the ground stories like you guys might be getting from me here, boots on the ground in this situation. So we are relying on outside sources. So just wanted to, remind you, I think when we hear of wars and rumors of wars, when the Bible talks about that, it's exactly what we're hearing about now. Not that that means we're not in a critical situation where things could pop off at any moment. We should be prepared for that. But rumors, we are hearing what they want us to hear about this current situation. And so is it a distraction? Is it truth? Is it leading to something else? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I personally believe we're moving into the fourth industrial revolution, regardless of what's going on. The head of that, think of who, if you're familiar with that movement, think of who has the power and who is moving us into that because of the tech. It's somebody that all of a sudden a lot of people love on the more conservative Christian side of things, Mr. Musk, right? But at the same time, because he's saying things people like to hear, it's the tickling of the ears. But at the same time, he's also the one who is leading us, moving us into the fourth industrial revolution, which is an AI-based system, transhumanism, all of those things. So I find that to be super interesting as well. So just be careful. And all that to say, when I start to listen to that stuff, I'm always reminded, it's rumors of war. It's rumors. All we know for certain is what's going on right here around us, and all we can control are the things in our environment. So we take those things and put them against the Word of God and get your homes in order. All right, let's see what we're at. 45%, and it's 11:30 the next day. So we're going to be able to run close to maybe 36 hours. 4 towers, 36 hours is my guess. Look at that beautiful sun today. So I'm harvesting because I'm going to make a big, huge green salad. And I'm going to do a big juice haul. One of the things I know, it can be overwhelming to try something new. So I know sometimes when people see the towers and they're so interested, but they feel paralyzed because it's so new and they've never grown food before. I totally get that. When my harvest wall came, I put off starting it for a while because I felt that way. it was a new system. I didn't feel like I had the capacity to learn anything new. And it turns out it's so simple. And so when it came to solar backup batteries, that is how I felt too. I would research them because I knew I needed one in case we had a power out situation, but I would get so overwhelmed that I couldn't pull the trigger. So after the hurricane, we made a list of the things that were most important to get in order for emergency purposes, water being one of them. And so I'm going to talk about that in another video. Clean water, because we've got water issues here now. They believe the aquifers were contaminated, which means the well water's contaminated too. And so that, and then also the solar to run my towers. So I hand watered them during the hurricane, which was fine because it was cloudy. But in an emergency situation where it's not cloudy, that could get very overwhelming very quickly. So when AFERIY offered to send me their solar powered battery, I guess it's a generator. I think it's just a battery pack. I was like, yes, please, let's give it a try. And it came, and it's so simple and so not overwhelming at all. So thank you, AFERIY, sending us security so that we can make sure if we have a power out, we have food security. So it is about to get really cold. We've already had snow. Very scary for those who are in tents still or in unstable situations here, but it is the reality we're in. And one of the things in this area that's a great concern is that the power systems were put back together with a Band-Aid. And we were warned of that. Cilantro. They were put back together quickly and maybe not to the best standards is what we've been told. We've also been told there's concerns of things like landslides still happening, mudslides, which I have seen. I've witnessed a few of those since the hurricane because the ground's not stable. And so that everything hasn't quite settled. So I noticed one the other day just off the highway, like there was a mudslide right on the side of the mountain on the highway. Another thing is a lot of trees were compromised during the storm and are not alive. They're dying. And so it's just a matter of time, wind, snow, things like that are going to take down the trees that actually died or began to die during the hurricane, but weren't quite dead enough to fall over. We're doing parsley and cilantro in our juice for heavy metal detox because we have found out the aquifers have most likely been contaminated with some heavy metals. Again, I'm going to talk about that in another video. Make sure to subscribe because I'm going to talk about water filtration systems. So important, especially if you're on city water, just all the time, because I had no idea that you could contaminate a well, and it has not been on my radar at all until this recent information. Heavy metal detoxing. So let me show you guys the system. Today I have to get 1 apple tree in, 6 service berries. I'm gonna harvest and do a big juice haul later tonight. I'll harvest today and do the juice haul. I'm gonna make some green pasta. I've gotta get 3 towers cleaned, reset up, plants, put them in the garage. Lots to do, very little time to do it. So we're gonna get busy. But first, let's take a look at this air fry. And what I'm going to do is plug in my 4 towers. I'm going to plug in 4 towers that are still running on power right now into that. And let's just see while we do these other chores, how long it runs these towers before we need to recharge it. So this tower here is a home tower, and most of this I'm going to juice and use. And what I'm not going to juice, I'm just going to move over to this other home tower here and kind of start consolidating, because that'll give me that'll mean I have 4 more towers I need to clean before the end of the season. It feels a little bit, I feel some pressure to get a lot of these chores done. I can't get it all done in one day. So getting 3 cleaned, set up in the garage with new food in them is key. And then starting to consolidate this stuff so I can work on those next. So with this battery operated system, I was super overwhelmed. Like I said before, I was looking into jackeries. We ended up getting a small jackery, and it's great, but it's not enough strength to power the amount of things I'm growing, especially if we need to run lights off of them. So I am going to do a test again, and I'll share that in another video on how long that battery will last for my towers indoors and for my harvest wall indoors that are running the pumps plus the light, because the light is going to use way more power than these systems use with the pump. They actually are they're very light in power usage when they're outside. Like, I think the harvest wall costs like 50 cents a month. It's almost not even, you're almost not even able to like track how much energy it uses because it uses so little. It only kicks on 4 times a day is what I have mine set to, for 4 minutes. That's my harvest wall. These outside are going to kick on every 12 minutes and run for 4 minutes. I'll put right here. I can never remember that, but it's a lot more frequent. Total of, I think, 15 minutes every hour, but 4 minutes for 16 minutes a day versus 16 minutes an hour. I think it's 15 minutes an hour, but you know, it's a difference. These take more power. These are aeroponics. They're a little bit different system. The harvest wall can run off less power because of the medium it's grown in. It's not aeroponics, it's hydroponics, so it has soil that's going to hold moisture, where these are being grown in the air. Both systems are great. I absolutely love both of them, love both of the companies. But I did want to explain a little bit of the differences just so you know. Endive. So I'm going to save all these greens for Thanksgiving because I'm going to bring a Japanese salad. So actually, I'm not going to harvest everything off of this today. Now that I look at it, I'm going to harvest the things that definitely need to be harvested. Some beautiful celery. Celery is an herb. It's so medicinal and amazing. Juice it. Okay, so what I know about this battery pack, it's not much. It's 2,400 watts, which apparently my children thought was awesome because the Jackery is like 250. So when we got the Jackery, they were like, yes. And then when we got this, they were like, okay, I'm taking that one if we go camping and things, because it just will run so much more. We actually used this over the weekend. I hosted a class on mushroom farming, like how to inoculate logs. That class will be here on YouTube, so you can watch that and learn as well. That'll be coming out soon. But we ran my stovetop. I have a little like burner that I use to heat the wax for plugging the holes, and we ran that off of this battery pack, and it ran for hours. According to my husband, a heat source takes a lot of power, and that was really good that it ran for so many hours. I don't really know the difference. What I love about the system is that it's not overwhelming. It's super easy, and that's what I needed. I needed something like I could just understand on my own. So let's take a look. Okay, and here it is right here, and it's AFERIY, and I will post a link to this below. Super clean, super simple. It took an hour and 45 minutes to get 100% charge. It was down to 6% when I started, so that's how long it took to charge. Output time, it says time remaining 99 hours. And down here, we've got different plugs. So, I mean, I don't even know if I would ever use the majority of those. But if it's going to be a USB and you want to use USB, you hit that and it'll tell it. Over here, if you're going to do DC, you just hit this DC button. And then on the side here, which is the one that is important for what I need, is our plugs. And you can see how many there are, which is amazing. And then you just hit this button to tell it that you want the power to go to this side. Same with this one. We've got our connectors here. We have an overload protection here. So this is just to charge it. And then actually in this case are the wires to connect the solar panel. I do not have the solar panel yet. It was on back order. So that is coming. It's a 400 watt solar panel. It's the most important things I found during this hurricane crisis. Staying healthy, because we've been exposed to so much stuff. So clean food. The grocery stores were useless. They only took cash. You had to wait in line, so your whole day could be just that, waiting in line to get a couple of things, which is so unnecessary. And I think in any situation, like one of my biggest things has always been be prepared so you can just shut the door and wait it out. There's so many things that happen in a crisis situation. And we had that even with this Hurricane Helene. Everything moves so fast and everything is just so critical. Like having to go out early on was very dangerous because roads were out and bridges were out. People were getting lost. The geographics of areas changed, so people were confused where they were. That's how a lot of people got into trouble, ended up places where there was flooding and things like that. Yeah, so being able to like shut the doors and wait out until you can really understand what's going on in a situation is super, super helpful. You know, the fresh food does that. Right here are actually some of my buckets for my long-term food storage. And, you know, having the dried goods is great, but we need those fresh foods to keep us healthy. Like greens are so super important for our diet, and it's actually one of the things that most people really lack in. And I think it's like really critical to make sure to stay on top of eating your greens every single day, especially in a crisis situation where you're exposed to things and all of, you know, the stress. Our bodies wear down. Trust me, I know from experience, having survived Hurricane Helene, and obviously we didn't have any damage, but we were in the thick of it and have been in the thick of it for many, many, many days. It's heavy. All right, and one of the questions I get a lot is how do we power all these? And again, you know, I'm shutting down for the season, so it looks a little bit different than it typically would. But you have a pump in here. I just learned something really cool. And I love, like I've said many times, Tower Garden and Harvest Wall. The reason I partner with these companies is because they actually care. It's not just a cheap product that was thrown on the market. There's a lot of thought that goes into everything. So with Tower Gardens, our pumps, I just learned this, they're made in Italy, and they're designed in a way that they match up with our nutrient solution so that they don't break down or don't wear down or don't get clogged up with the minerals that we use, because minerals can, you know, make mineral buildup. You see that on your towers. They are also specially designed to kick on and off, because most pumps, like a fish tank pump, I always say it's like a fish tank pump. You can hear it. This one's vibrating because it's a big pump. They aren't designed to stay on, to go on and off. They're designed to just run continuously. So don't just replace your Tower Garden pump with a regular fish tank pump. We want our special pumps. But they put a lot of thought into like every little detail, and I just thought that was so great learning that. Because honestly, I didn't think much about the pumps. I just thought it was a fish tank pump. But it's more than that. So the pump is in the tower. And then we have our cord. And our cord goes to our timer. And I should have these in some sort of protective box, but I don't. And I have had one die on me. My fault, totally. Because we live in a rainforest. But they take a beating. They do really well. 0 is for outside, 1 is for indoors. You just hit that button and it changes it. Maybe. Oh, it's running right now, so I can't change it. But you hit that button and it changes it to 1. You can plug in 2 per timer. So this is fed to this thingy. I'm sure you guys know the name of this. Put it down below if you know. I did have 2 towers running off of this. This one here, but this one's turned off now because it's green beans and it's done for the season. And so then we have 2 extension cords, and these go back here to our next system. And I got another one of those connectors, and I've got 2 timers. So between these 2 timers and this timer, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 towers. This one, I don't remember where this one was plugged in, to be honest. I must have had another timer out here. But they were all running off of these 2 extension cords. And so this pump, this timer would have been plugged in over here to this system, would have been plugged in over here to this system. But they're all running off 1 extension cord. This pink one used to be red. That goes into my garage. And that's it. So we're going to go unplug that, and we're going to plug it into here. All right, so we're going to plug it in this side. You want to keep this out of the weather. So I have it in the garage. And we're going to hit this button. All right, and we're going to turn it on. And I'm going to hit this button. Let's go see if it turned the towers on. There it goes. All right, I can hear them. They kicked on. If you don't want your tower to make that noise, the pumps come with these little suction cups, and it keeps it from vibrating. I don't mind it because they're outside and it keeps animals away. Okay, that was it. Super simple. It's 2:01. I'm gonna get busy with my chores. I wanna show you guys the harvest wall. It's so fabulous. And all my starts, they're so fabulous. And then I'm gonna get busy. I'm gonna get these trees planted and these towers clean and get them in this garage because it's overwhelming me. And I'm gonna feel so secure knowing we have food for the winter set up in this garage as this cold weather rolls in. All right, so I got the garage a little bit clean. This is some distribution stuff and some antique pieces I've been collecting for a few months now for our kitchen renovation. So we did get cleaned up. I'm gonna show you guys my food storage. This is our long-term food storage here and in buckets back there. That's like our 3 to 5 year food plan. And I'm actually gonna be doing a few videos over the next few weeks. So definitely subscribe if you're interested on long-term food storage. How do we manage our systems? How do we do it? How do we do it in a way that we're living in preparedness, not just stocking up a bunch of stuff that we're not going to need? Just my thoughts in general on how to do that mathematically to do it well. And then products for Christmas. Now is not the time, friends, to fall into gluttony where we're destroying our bodies and our finances. We buy things for Christmas. We use it as an opportunity. I mean, of course, everyone wants to buy things for Christmas. It is fun, but I use it as an opportunity to get things that are needed. So I have some criteria for the things we buy for our home, the things we buy clothing wise, the things we buy as gifts, so that we're making sure we're buying things that produce something. And that's kind of my key. A tower produces food. It's gonna produce food for years and years and years and years. This saves me so much money. And I know the price tag, the sticker shock for some people is like a lot. If you're not a gardener, for me it was not, because I know what it takes to grow in raised beds, and those beds aren't there anymore. It's just a lot of wasted money I've spent in my gardens, where I'm not wasting it here. Here I get to use my towers year round, and over and over and over for years and years and years to come. So it's a product that I invested money in, which money in the bank is pretty useless right now with inflation the way it is. It's a huge loss, actually. And it's producing something for me. It's producing, first off, a business with this channel, teaching you guys how to grow food. But more importantly, it's producing health and fresh food and keeping us out of the grocery store and saving us a ton of money. And so with Christmas gifts and things, like I am doing bug out bags for the boys because they're gone a lot now. They have cars and they're out and about living their lives. And I want them to have gear, and it's gear they can use to backpack, like ultralight backpacking gear, but also things that are all extremely important in an emergency situation. I'll be covering water filtration in that because I've got water filtration for our home that I want to discuss with you, some options you can use, as well as like on the go, to make sure you're protected when you're out and about. Here, I would not drink the water anywhere if you come into town and visit here. It is not safe from what we're hearing, and I'll talk about that more on another video. So yeah, definitely subscribe if you want to learn about some of those things. I'm super excited to kind of branch out and share that with you guys. I think it's important, and not just important to prep, but to live a prepared life where we are growing food and we have reserves and we have resiliency and we have backup plans, so that when something happens, we can just shut the door, stay secure and safe, and have the things we need until we evaluate what's going on. I mean, the world's a pretty big hot mess right now, guys. Like seriously, every time I turn on the news, which is like YouTube because I don't watch the real news, I'm just like, wow. So I had someone ask why their lettuce was curled, and someone was like, oh, that's leaf curl and it's terrible. That's not what this is. Leaves, when you heavily seed things or when they're baby greens, that's just how they're shaped. I call it like the awkward adolescent phase. You know, when kids get lanky and kind of awkward as they're growing, that's what's happening. This is a butter crunch lettuce, or a Lola Rosa maybe. I don't remember. But look at how beautiful these are. Absolutely. These are just absolutely gorgeous. Actually, I think this is a heirloom. Oh, I'll put the name here if I can remember it. But look at, I love the green and red. Green onions, really trying to get better at seeding green onions consistently so I can eat like 2 of these bundles a week, which is why I want another harvest wall. And if you're new to growing your own food and eating lots of the food you grow, it may seem like a lot, but I actually base it on math. Like if I need 2 bundles of green onions a week, I need more space to grow green onions because we're eating a ton of the food we grow. And so that is my goal with you guys. Like first steps, learn how to grow some things. Second step, learn how to eat those things, then learn how to eat a ton of those things and then grow a ton more. And then all of a sudden you're really independent from the grocery store and you're packing your body full of fresh, nutrient dense food. And it's so super cool. All right, now my towers here, check this out. We have so many peppers. We have chili peppers. We have gorgeous bell peppers. Pequeño peppers, aloe. This is marjoram and oregano. These are sweet pepper. I forget the name of this pepper. And then these are a sweet pepper. Just so many different pepper varieties. This is a jalapeno, and it's loaded with these little jalapenos. I forget what this one is. And peppers are a perennial and will grow up to 5 years. And this tower is 1 year and 7 months old. I started this, well, is it that old? Yeah, I started it the spring before this last spring. So maybe 1 year and 5 months old. It's very mature and it's grown inside permanently. And then it was started indoors. And then I moved it outside for about a month over the last month because this garage just got crazy. And then maybe over the last 2 months. And then I just moved it back in. And yeah, we're going to harvest all of those, give it a nice haircut, let it rest a minute, and then it'll bloom again. All right, let's check. We are at 99%. So if I had the solar panel, it would be right out here and we would have it plugged in, and hopefully that would just keep this running full time so it wasn't draining at all. But let's see how long we can keep our towers going. And it's 3:57, so 2 hours. We've used 4%. So I'm going to keep it going. Let me show you the towers are in the garage. They probably won't stay right here. But for right now, this works. And I'm going to load up these 2 tonight. They already have nutrients in them. I'll put the lights on tomorrow. The lights are back there. That's how I store my lights. And I'm going to take a little walk to get our mail. And so, you know, sometimes you put off chores for a really long time. I don't know if you guys are like this, and it gets overwhelming. And then you finally do it and you're like, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long? That was so easy. And you enjoy it. Mushrooms. I did not have that experience today. Like, I did not enjoy any of that. No part of that did I ever think, this is lovely, I want to be doing this. I did not want to be doing that. I worked out super hard at the gym. We've been running nonstop. But I share that to say I did it anyway because it's important. And I can't promise you, if you do the things that I do, grow on towers, grow on a harvest wall, grow your own mushrooms, spend hours outside every day. I have a goal of several hours a day, and having these projects gets me outside. Can't promise it's always going to be fun and you're always going to love it. Sometimes it's not fun, but we do it anyway. All right, let's see what we're at. 45%, and it's 11:30 the next day. So we're going to be able to run close to maybe 36 hours. 4 towers, 36 hours is my guess. And I'll give you guys an update when we get the solar and we try that out. But thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.